Hola estudiantes! How are we? Today, I want to keep it simple. I would like to share one of my favorite ways to level up your Spanish. And it's actually reading books. Now, look, it doesn't have to be intimidating. You don't need to go and pick up Don Quixote or anything like that. Short stories, comics, graded readers, they are all fantastic ways to not only learn lots of new words, but actually show you how Spanish works in the real world. So with that being said, relax, make yourself a coffee, let's have a quick chat about how reading can make Spanish click for you. Vamos! Right then guys, so I always say that one of the best areas of learning Spanish, one of the best skill sets you can develop is your ability to speak. But that's not to say you can just neglect everything else, right? Reading is not only invaluable and necessary, but it can be very fun. Not if you read the wrong books though. If you're reading stuff that's very challenging or beyond your level of competence, then it's a very quick way to lose motivation and not want to continue doing it, right? So you want to read the right book, and the right book I have brought with me to this park. It's by a guy called Olly Richards. I'm sure you've heard of him. He's very famous within the space of learning Spanish. So this book is called Spanish Short Stories for Beginners, Volume 2. It's highly engaging, and what I like about it is that it is ideal for beginners, really. One thing Olly Richards repeats time and time again is the value of storytelling as a means of learning Spanish, and that's why all of his stories are highly themed, very interesting, and slightly quirky in a way that will get you to remember the story, right? So yeah, let's have a little read together and I can show you just how effective it is. So here we go. We have our first story here, which is El Castillo, meaning the castle. And right off the bat you can see just how clean it is, and the fact that there are no intimidating or challenging, very challenging words. Of course, if you read this as a beginner, you're going to stumble across a few words here and there that you might not understand. But the great thing about Olly Richards is that he's aware of this and highlights many key words and key vocab in bold, as you can see here, for example, alto. And if you turn a few pages, you have a vocabulary section which covers all these words in bold. If you're a proper beginner, you're probably not going to understand everything you read straight away, but I find that Olly has included the perfect number of words in bold to go back, learn the definition of, and use to help piece together the meaning of the story. You can kind of guess what everything else is, right? So the most challenging words that you may not be familiar with are the ones that are typically highlighted in bold, so that you can then go back to this page here, figure out what they mean in the vocab section, return to the story and make sense of it. And it encourages you to read, more than once, which is what you should do, really. Each time you read the same story, the idea is that you understand a bit more each time. So what I love is that Olly really promotes learning through storytelling and context. It is, believe you me, it is an effective way to learn Spanish. So, shall we read the first few lines, the first paragraph? Capítulo 1, El Detective. Esta es la historia del caso más importante del Detective Morgan. El Detective Morgan era un hombre muy alto y muy fuerte. And as you can see, the words alto y fuerte are in bold because the assumption is that most beginners aren't going to know what they mean, right? So you go here, you see that, oh, okay, alto means tall and fuerte means strong. You go back to the story and it starts to make a lot more sense. Tenía el pelo negro y un poco largo. El detective trabajaba resolviendo crímenes y otros casos. Trabajaba desde hace muchos años en resolver crímenes. Vivía en una ciudad muy apartada. What does apartada mean? Okay, it means remote. Awesome. Era una ciudad pequeña, pero siempre había casos por resolver. And yeah, I just want to be honest with you. I know that it might even be a conflict of interest to recommend Olly Richards' books, but I'm just being candid in that they did help me when I began my Spanish learning journey. So if they work for me, they definitely can work for yourself. Another great thing about this series is that it accommodates for all levels of learning, from beginner, intermediate to advanced. So there really is no one that can't benefit from these books. If this is too easy, I'd suggest something a bit more intermediate. Other than Olly Richards, you have all sorts of books that you can dive into. As a beginner of the language, you're probably going to have the same level of reading competency as a child, with all due respect. So I would suggest reading children's books, and that's not a bad thing. They're pretty fun and readily available. You can dive into any bookstore in Spain, or even England, to be honest. So you don't have to rely on Olly Richards, although I would say he is very good. There's a reason his books are as popular as they are, because they work. So as you develop your reading skills, you can then move on to Spanish books for adults and no longer for kids, right? And that's where you're really going to develop a broader vocabulary and become more eloquent with the language, in the language rather. So, but don't worry about that for now. That's probably a little bit too much, a little bit too overwhelming. So you can always work your way up, starting with either children's books or Olly Richards' Spanish short stories. So yeah, I hope that's helped. It's certainly helped me, and yeah, it's great fun. All of his stories, at least Olly Richards' stories, are all engaging, a little bit quirky, but when something's quirky and unusual, you're more likely to remember it. I hope that helps. Let me know in the comments if you read any of Olly Richards' books already, and if they've helped you, or if you have any suggestions that you can leave other learners, also provide those. That would be great. And stay tuned for the next video.